Should I, 27 male, tell my friend, 25 male, that I didn't realize we were dating? I realize what I'm about to say sounds terrible, but bear with me. The plot is somewhat lengthy in my brain, but I'll try to make it as concise as possible. So please forgive any choppy writing. In addition, English is not my native language. After a particularly difficult split, I was forced to relocate with my parents last year since I was having difficulty finding a new apartment to rent. My parents and I do not get along well for a variety of reasons, which has made things much worse. In order to get out of this situation, I ultimately decided to seek for employment in different locations. At the time, I really did want to go since I'd lived in that city my whole life and liked my profession, but I couldn't afford to continue living with my parents any longer. I was able to get work rather fast since this hotel was reopening following a change in ownership and was having difficulty filling positions. As a result, I was able to relocate here in October. In the beginning, I didn't do much socializing since it's quite difficult to make new acquaintances in a place where everyone already knows everyone. My nation and area are doing well, and there haven't been any proven instances in town yet, but that hasn't made it any easier to make friends. I've also been quite busy as a result of my decision to purchase a home. It simply kind of occurred because my employer knew the previous owners, and it was really inexpensive since it required a lot of repair, but it certainly gave the impression that we were making a long-term commitment. When this man, let's call him Eric, and I were both caught in the social distancing wait outside the drugstore in May, we struck up a conversation and began to chatting. I introduced myself, and he offered me to a barbecue with his pals, which I accepted. My social skills with new people are limited, yet they made me feel comfortable and were all quite kind. After that, we simply hung around, primarily Eric and myself, which I assumed was due to the fact that he was being extra cautious at these times and only saw his large group of buddies on the street outside. In addition, we were the only two people who weren't in a relationship or didn't have children, so it made logical in my mind that we were alone a lot of the time. Cooking supper or lunch for him, I'm a chef, in exchange for showing me amazing hiking spots and assisting me with the home improvements, would be a dream come true. Even though I believe I've moved on, it was comforting to know that he was accepting about the split and other issues. It's funny, because I always thought it was so cliché when people spoke about knowing a week into a friendship or relationship that it was going to be different, but it's the only way I can express how I've felt in that situation. I guarantee, now that I'm putting it down, it's so apparent, but I honestly didn't give it much thought since I'd never been in a relationship with a man before. Afterwards, he phoned me about 2-3 weeks ago and asked if I would be interested in going out to dinner on my next night off. He also emphasized, just you and me. I thought he was being strange and formal, but I believed there was something else going on, and just answered sure, to which he responded with it's a date then, which I assumed he meant as a joke line since I have friends who have done the same in the past and I was right. Afterward, he chose this restaurant in another town that was rather upscale, and one I'd never been to before. I brought him back to his hotel, where he thanked me for the ride and said he'd had a wonderful day. Normally, we don't treat each other in such a formal manner, but we weren't behaving in any way unusually formal at supper, so I didn't pay any attention to it. Then, over the course of a week or two, he began sending me heart-shaped messages and addressing me by my nicknames here and there, which is the first thing that has really stuck out to me about him. Then, earlier this week, when we were out during his lunch break, he grabbed my hand, and that's when it all came together. It took me completely by surprise, and I wasn't sure how to respond, so I tried to remain calm and accept the situation. He contacted me the other day to ask whether we were still planning on having a movie night on Sunday, and I just said, of course, and now I'm beginning to feel a little anxious. I was raised in a quite conservative environment, and despite the fact that a lot of other people were, I didn't really question mine until I went to university. My social skills have always been a little shaky when it comes to such things, and I've never really taken the initiative with any of the women I've dated. But I've been thinking about it for the last few days, and I've come to the conclusion that I really like him, and that none of the things he's done has made me feel uncomfortable. In fact, quite the contrary. He's attractive, and he's absolutely what I would have described as my type, but in a male form, and it seems completely different from any other friendship I've ever had. Again, looking back, I obviously haven't been acting very platonic with him, and we become close fairly quickly, and if he had been a lady, I would have thought that was where this was headed as well if he hadn't been a guy. Perhaps the most pressing question is whether or not I should inform him the next time I see him that I was unaware that we were dating. Is it better for me to wait? Is it necessary for him to know? In order to avoid making him feel uncomfortable or making him believe that I'm using him to find myself out, I don't want to lie to him about what he assumed. I'm very interested in seeing where this goes since he makes me quite happy. Story 2. My 26 female, boyfriend 29 male, insinuated that our relationship will end. We have been in a relationship for 3 years. We are currently engaged in a heated debate. He earns almost twice as much as I do. I owe a lot of money on my college loans. Rent is divided evenly among us, and all other expenses are shared in proportion to our combined income. He wants me to pay more to the debt, and he wants me to pay more rent accordingly. I don't want to do this because I want to make a contribution to the family, and I believe I would be unable to do so if I made any smaller contributions. This has gotten him a little irritated. During our conversation, he expressed his belief that it would be beneficial for me in my financial situation, and that I would be in a good position in a few years if we were to divorce now rather than later. He is quite adamant about my doing this. This statement has caused me a great deal of concern. What makes him believe that we are about to break up? I don't believe we'll be breaking up anytime soon. It was the tone with which he stated it. It seemed almost certain that we would break up. When I inquired as to the reason for our separation, he just shrugged and said that it was a possibility. I believe that our connection is excellent. I'm interested in marrying him. He is one of the kindest people I have ever encountered in my life. I know I should speak to him about it, but I'm not sure I have the confidence to do so at this point in time. What if he has been unhappy and wants to end the relationship? Is it possible that I'm overthinking things? Is this simply a little point that he brought up that I'm exaggerating to absurdity? Update. We had a discussion about where our relationships were headed, and he expressed his desire to see us get married and raise a family. The subject of marriage and starting a family has come up before, and we both desire to do so. In response to this, I brought up his statement, to which he first became defensive, but then confessed that he couldn't escape the idea that I would end up ending our relationship. He believes that he is too dull for me and that I would leave him if this were the case. The guy said that he was in the happiest relationship of his life, and that he wanted to claim on for as long as he could and build as many happy memories as he could before it ended. When he was talking about this, he seemed to be terrified. It completely crushed my heart. I told him that I had no intention of abandoning him. I'm in love with him. Currently, I am in the finest relationship I have ever been in. I really don't want to abandon him. I promised him that if there is anything that upsets me or causes me to be unhappy, I will bring it up with him. To be really honest, I don't believe this is about me. His parents were ruthless dictators who only showered him with crumbs of adoration when he achieved something really outstanding, which was seldom. They're a sucker. He intends to get treatment in a therapeutic setting. We also spoke about how I was feeling uneasy about my contribution, and how he had a long and successful career ahead of him, which we discussed later. With the current state of our economy, it is quite probable that income disparity will continue to expand. We were able to reach a compromise, and he will contribute more to the rent, albeit it will not be totally proportionate, but it will still assist me in paying off my debt more quickly than before. I simply have to come to terms with it, to be really honest. I like what I do, and he enjoys his profession as well. He will always be able to out-earn me in the long run.